Hello and welcome. You're listening to Utilita's Energy Matters podcast. My name's Jim Rose, and it's here we speak to people across the business to give you more information about the energy matters that matter to you. We're here to answer your questions, the things you ask us about the most, and anything we think you should know about too. This is Energy Matters podcast number 5, and a special edition as we address the energy crisis we're facing right now and ask the question, what does the energy crisis mean for Utilita customers? Helping me navigate safe passage through the energy crisis is Utilita CEO and founder Bill Bullen. Can you explain simply to our customers why there's an energy crisis? Everyone's been talking about it, but how did we get into this situation?
Well, first of all, this is not just a UK problem. This is a worldwide problem. So primarily the problem started with a tightening in the supply-demand balance for natural gas. Natural gas has become an increasingly tradable product throughout the world, partly because gas networks have become more and more interconnected, and also because we have an increasing volume of gas being provided by liquefied natural gas ships that are filled with liquefied natural gas, and they can go to the North American market, they can go to the Asian market, or they can go to the European market. So if there's a worldwide tightening of the supply-demand balance, basically the whole world suddenly faces very high marginal prices for gas. And that then feeds into the electricity sector, because a lot of electricity is produced from gas, and certainly the marginal electricity is produced from gas, so that tends to drive up electricity prices as well. But it's primarily starting from gas.
And I've heard some commentators sort of say, the price rises are unprecedented. Could you put them in context, Bill? Give us an idea of just how bad the situation is.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I've lived through quite a few energy price rises in my time. I still remember, doing shadow puppets on the wall during the early 1970s. More recently, though, we had a fairly high spike in prices, particularly for gas, back in 2005. And of course, we had the 2008-2009 credit crunch, which also had very high energy prices. But I have to say, the current crisis is bigger than that. Price rises are bigger and higher and more sustained than the price rises we've seen in the past. So this is, fairly unprecedented, certainly in the gas market, but right up there with the 1970s oil crisis, I think.
And of course, the main question our customers will be asking is my supply safe? And obviously, secondly, are our prices locked in for winter? We've all seen some scare stories out there. Fixed tariffs of more than £2,000 a year on average. Can you reassure our customers?
Yeah. So the first things first. Whilst marginal prices for gas, if you're going into the wholesale gas market today, you have buying gas. If you have to buy gas, then you're going to pay a really high price for it. And that's because what the market does is essentially it gets ahead of a problem and starts to do what an economist would call rationing. So basically giving a clear price signal to those that can avoid using gas or have alternative sources of gas, like drawing gas out of storage or switching a power station from gas firing to oil firing. It's giving the market that signal to do exactly that. So this doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be an actual interruption to gas supplies. And in any case, even if that starts to happen, what will happen is that some big industrial users who not time critical production will be able to be shut down, and that will release more and more gas for the residential sector. So nobody's really expecting any actual disruption to the supply of gas, particularly to the domestic sector. The second thing that customers need to know is that even though I know the price cap has pushed up prices quite considerably for this coming winter, consumers are protected from the worst excesses of the price rises. I mean, the price rises in the wholesale market are now 300-400% of what they were pre this crisis hitting. And consumers, yes, their bills have gone up a bit, but they are protected because of price capping. And also because most well-run gas suppliers and electricity suppliers will forward hedge their position. So at Utilita, for example, we would have been forward hedging our position, buying gas, for this coming winter, anything up to about a year ago, and before gas prices started to rise. So, consumers will be largely protected, both in terms of their physical supply and in terms of price.
Bill, if I can just take you back, you used a term called hedging, which to me might be something I might do with a bit of privet in the garden. But for those customers not au fait with it, can you explain hedging?
Yeah, one of the idiosyncrasies of the English language. Hedging is basically fixing the price of a commodity in the future. So obviously there's a spot market for all energy products, whether it's oil, gas, electricity, coal. They all have a spot market. But you can also buy quantities of any of those commodities into the future. So, and we call that hedging. So we're essentially hedging our bets, if you like, is where the term really comes from. But actually what we're doing, of course, is not betting. And that's the key thing here. We've actually fixed the price of all of the volumes of gas that we expect to deliver for this coming winter. And we've been doing that regularly for, the last, about a year in terms of buying for this coming winter. And because we hedge our position in that way, it smooths out these shocks in wholesale costs. So our overall cost of wholesale energy won't go up as high as the current market is going up. But also, when market prices fall, because we're forward hedged, we will be in a situation where our wholesale costs tend to be slightly higher. So, there is a bit of swings and roundabouts here, but obviously there's a limit to how far wholesale costs will fall, but not really much of a limit on how high they will rise.
So just to conclude, Bill, the supply of our customers, electricity and gas, is safe. And while the price cap means that bills will go up, or the unit rate customers charge for their energy has gone up about 12%, that's obviously a far cry from as you've mentioned, the 350, 400% increases that we've seen out there on the sort of day-to-day markets. And obviously, as part of this crisis, Bill, it's been very unfortunate. We've seen a number of suppliers go under. That's obviously very unsettling for customers, and obviously there's a human cost there in job losses. Is Utilita okay as a business?
Yeah, I think one common feature in all of the businesses that have gone under so far is that what they haven't been doing is forward hedging their wholesale costs. And so essentially what they've been doing is selling long to customers and buying short in the hope that the spot market will remain very suppressed, and that helps them to support a tariff that is really unsustainable in the long run. So and it's created this market where people have been able to get £200-300 reduction in their energy costs. The problem with that is that it isn't sustainable, and what we've seen is this event has come along, and we are now picking up the cost of all those failed businesses. But Utilita is run on a sustainable way, a financially prudent way. We do forward hedge our position, and consequently we are not seeing that huge rise in our wholesale costs that some of these other companies have literally just hit the wall. The one area where Utilita would be exposed to these high wholesale costs is if we were to carry on taking on new customers, and obviously at that point it's adding to our level of demand, and we would have to go into the market and start buying energy at really expensive prices for new customers. And consequently, we've taken the decision that actually we don't want to actively be taking on new customers at this time, and we will return to a growth strategy in the spring of next year.
And of course, I guess you've hit the nail on the head there, Bill. It's all about reducing risk, isn't it? Hedging, because we want the business to be stable, but we also want to guarantee the service and supply that we give to our customers.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I think if you want to be running a business that's sustainable for the long term, then you've got to manage these big risks. And I think some of the businesses that we've seen set up, are not people that have come from the energy market very often, and maybe have been a little bit naive in terms of their view of what can happen in energy wholesale markets. As we were talking earlier on, I've now lived through a few fairly significant swings in energy wholesale prices, but anybody that kind of came into the market in 2010 or after that won't really have seen any kind of big risk in wholesale costs, because these things tend to come round not that regularly, but when they do come round they really hit home.
And of course we've already mentioned that prices are going up. Ofgem has raised the price cap by about 12%, but Utility's a little bit different. We're the first and still the only supplier actively helping customers to use less energy, and obviously maybe the point you'd like to stress, Bill, is we're not saying go without, we're just saying be a little bit cleverer with how you use energy day to day around the house.
Yeah, I think this is the key point. For anybody that is really concerned about their energy bills for this coming winter, the overall cost of your energy is driven by two factors. One is the quantity of energy you're consuming, the other is the price you're paying for it. Now, the price has gone up, but it is fixed by the price cap. So that's kind of taking the risk or the variability out of that part of the equation. So the other part of the equation is how much you're using. And that's the way that consumers can now get control of their energy bills for this coming winter. And as you say, this is not about going without, but this is about cutting down on waste. Doing some very simple things like, for example, learning how to use your heating system properly. That's a classic thing that so many households in this country still don't do. Making sure that it's adjusted, properly, so that if you're not going to be in the house, the heating's off. And there's a number of either very low cost or even just behavioural changes that people can make to the way that they live and the way that they use their homes that would cut down fairly significantly on the cost of their energy supplies. We just said that prices have gone up by 12%. Well, if you can reduce your consumption by 12% by just cutting out a bit of waste, then basically your bill is going to be exactly the same as it was last year. So no increase at all overall, because both quantity and price impact the cost.
And talking of making those little adjustments at home to how you use energy, could you tell our customers about Utility's Energy High Five campaign? I've heard 30 is the new 40 when it comes to doing a wash load bill.
Yeah, that's right. The Energy High Five campaign is actually a campaign that we've been running for a number of years now. Helping customers to save energy has always been part of Utility's DNA. We always say that the greenest energy is the energy you don't use. And I think that's never been more true than it is today.
I suppose the cheapest energy as well, Bill, the greenest and cheapest energy.
Cheaper as well. But yeah, so the Energy High Five campaign is all about encouraging and informing customers about those small things that we can do to cut our energy consumption, but particularly to cut waste. So this is, again, it's not about going without. This is about advising and encouraging customers in a positive way to reduce their energy consumption. And we estimated that on average consumers could save up to 160 quid, £163 off their energy bill. And that, as we were saying earlier on, compared with a sort of £140, £150 increase that's coming from the price cap, the two things actually net off quite conveniently. So customers don't necessarily need to see an increase in their overall cost of energy. It is about making those small behavioural changes. And the Energy High Five campaign has got a lot of information that's available on the internet and elsewhere to, as I say, inform, help and encourage customers to cut their energy waste.
And I'll do the plug now, Bill. So that link is utilita.co.uk/Energy High Five. And you could save up to £163 a year. But we've gone a bit further, haven't we, Bill? We've got some new tech that we've recently released called Smart Score. Again, customers can save more than £200 here. Can you explain a bit more?
Yeah, so this is for me, one of the great uses of technology. We've always been about a smart prepay service, but one of the things we've worked out how to do is to use the data that the smart meters are generating to advise customers in a very individual way on what it is about their energy consumption that they could improve about their energy consumption. So essentially, Smart Score enables us to very specifically show a customer what's driving their carbon footprint, how they differ from other similar consumers, and I guess what they could be doing to reduce their energy consumption even further. And it is very specific. So this is not generic advice. This is very specific to your behaviours in your home. And it is basically driven by some data analytics off of the data that's being produced by your smart meter.
So, and obviously to get Smart Score, all you have to do is download the My Utilita app and go to the Smart Score area and just fill in a little bit of information about your household. You'll get a star rating, and then take it from there and start making those savings. I guess there's no better time really to be more energy aware.
Well, as we're coming into winter every year, it gets cold in winter. So, this is the time to make those differences and to help avoid, or save yourself a few quid a week and avoid that additional cost, some of that additional cost at least, of running your home during the winter.
Talking of this energy crisis, when do you think things are going to get better? When do you think prices might stabilise or at least stop skyrocketing?
That's a really difficult question, but I'm afraid to say that the outlook is less good now than it was even a couple of months ago. As I say, this is all about the tightening in the supply-demand balance on a worldwide scale, and what we were seeing were very high prices for this coming winter, but then prices dropping back down to a normal level in next summer and even through next winter. But the news that we're hearing in terms of some of the major supply projects, we've heard of problems with Russian gas pipelines, and I guess a number of other fairly long-run infrastructure projects that need to come into place to try and even out that supply-demand balance. And what we're now starting to see is prices rising for next winter as well, not as high as they are for this winter. But we shouldn't expect prices for consumers to drop right back down to sort of the level they were, a year ago, I'm afraid, anytime soon. And this is another reason why, as a nation, we need to help to reduce our dependency on imported hydrocarbons and imported kilowatt hours of electricity, because the more we're dependent on these international markets, the more we're at risk of price changes.
So I guess, Bill, to reiterate for our customers, to try and mitigate the price increases that obviously everyone is facing over the winter, have a look at our Energy High Five webpage, download the My Utilita app and look at Smart Score, and just have a look at the way you use energy around the home.
Yeah, and these are behavioural changes that we need to instill for the longer term, because unless, as I say, we do cut our demand for imported energy in the long run, then we're going to constantly be coming back to this kind of a problem. So we would encourage everybody to do what they can to get involved with Energy High Five, as I say, as you said, to download the app and take some actions based on what they're seeing on Smart Score, and really help. This is something that everybody needs to do, and everybody needs to do together, really, to have a big impact on the national demand for imported gas, and everybody can help make a difference.
Thanks for joining us, Bill.
Thank you, Jim.
That was Energy Matters. Thanks for listening. And if you want more information on energy saving, you can visit utilita.co.uk/myutilita/Smart Score and Utilita supplier.co.uk/energy-.